Hub worlds in Sonic are interesting. They're primarily a way for you to access levels of the game in a more natural way than simply going through a stage selection. For Sonic 1 and 2, there wasn't a stage selection at all unless you used debug mode. You progressed through the game normally, and if you wanted to replay a certain level, well, you just had to play the other levels to get to it first. Sonic 3 did us the favor of adding in a proper stage selection, which upon finishing the game lets you choose from all of the different levels you played. Now, stage selections are fine and all, but Sonic Team decided to take things a step further with the inclusion of hub worlds. Hub worlds act essentially as a way to contextualize your travels from point A to B in more detail and often serve to flesh out the world you're in a bit more. It's turning a stage selection into this diegetic thing where instead of scrolling through a menu, you physically walk into the stages in their place in the world. It's a nice way of world building and also raising immersion even more. Hub worlds in Sonic are very inconsistent. A lot of them work differently from one another, sometimes they're in certain games and absent from others. It's a whole can of worms. One that I'm going to open right now because, you know, that's the video. Sonic Jam, of all games, is where the hub worlds in Sonic games started. I do not own Sonic Jam because nobody owns Sonic Jam. Now luckily there's multiple playthroughs of it on YouTube so we can at least see the gist of it. Now Sonic Jam is actually a compilation for the Sega Saturn including Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Sonic & Knuckles. The main appeal of this game, however, is that you start in this little hub world. Through this hub world you can go to select what game you want to play and access all sorts of extras like the gallery and theater. But what is this hub like? Well, it's very simple, but it has a lot of charm. It's a small little area that you can control Sonic in, and you can run, jump, and that's it. There's small little missions around the place, which all revolve around collecting things like rings and what have you. While obviously the gameplay isn't anything super special here, I think the best part about it is just the charm. This is the first time you can control Sonic in the second time you can control Sonic in a 3D environment. On top of that, the visuals on display are just incredibly charming and look very nice. The hub takes place in Green Hill and everything just looks really beautiful. The colors are nice and saturated, it's got that low poly charm to it, and it just looks very pleasant overall. Now before I continue, I do want to quickly ask for you to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'm really trying to hit 10K by the end of the year, and I can only do that with your help. If you want to go the extra mile, I also have a Patreon where you can get early access to videos for as little as $2.50. You can afford that. It's the best way to support me as YouTube don't really pay that much. But anyways, back to it. Now I know what most of you are here for, the first true hub world in the Sonic franchise, with Sonic Adventure 1. Now, there's technically 3 hub worlds, all titled Adventure Fields, which are still connected to each other. Station Square, Mystic Ruins, and the Egg Carrier. These places act as your central hub throughout the game as you play a level and travel to somewhere else in one of these hubs to reach the next one. It feels nice having all of these locations contextualized a bit more and fit in to truly feel like a connected world. You can head to Emerald Coast via the beach, Windy Valley via a cave, and the list goes on. Now, unfortunately, I am a little mixed on these adventure fields. While they all look nice and do some great world building, I sadly find them to be poor for the pacing of the game, and the layouts of them just aren't really amazing in my opinion. As a stupid dumb kid, I got lost in them a lot, and while I can navigate them pretty well now, I still feel like the act of actually traveling from place to place it does not feel the best. Station Square is the most iconic and beloved adventure field here. It's a nice looking city that's home to a lot of the stages in the game like Emerald Coast, Speed Highway, Casinopolis, and more. There's a train station in Station Square you can take to head over to the Mystic Ruins, which is very cool. Now there's 2 parts to the Mystic Ruins, one being this smaller and more open area where Tails' house resides, and the other which is deep in the jungle actually hosting the aforementioned Mystic Ruins. This bit is very maze-like, which tripped me up a lot when I was younger, but now it's just as easy as just spin dashing forward and walking on top of the trees most of the distance. And finally, you have the Egg Carrier. It's alright. It's got this really cool aesthetic, and it's the smallest of the adventure fields, being home to only 2 stages as far as I'm aware, that being Skydeck and Final Egg, but there's plenty of extra rooms just for decoration that look really nice, honestly. Overall, while the hub world in Sonic Adventure looks nice and has nice world building, I never really like playing through them. It can honestly muddy the pacing of the game, and overall I feel they just aren't very good. Now, SA2 actually has a small hub world in the form of Chow World, a small hub that contains the Chow Garden and the Black Market. That's it. It's neat, it's pretty cool, but, you know, not much to say. Next up, we have Sonic 06, and these are fine for the most part. Soleanna has 3 parts to it, the normal town, the city, and the jungle. The Soleanna town is a calm, simple area home to a few different portals to access different stages. The area itself is pretty nice, and visually, despite being, you know, obviously flawed, still has a cohesive enough aesthetic for me to like what I'm looking at for the most part. It's not great or anything, but it doesn't piss me off that much. There's some simple town missions scattered around, which aren't good, but they're pretty inoffensive. Now, one really cool thing about this area is being able to get to the top of the rooftop to do a bit of rooftop running. Aren't I clever? And it's a really cool feeling. There's something just pleasant about traversing atop of these buildings. I really like it. The city is just a watered-down version of the town. I don't care for it that much. The layout is much simpler, and there isn't anything cool like running on the roofs as far as I'm aware. And finally, the jungle is just a barren open plain with genuinely nothing to do. I mean, yeah, I guess that sucks. It's literally just an open field. I mean, it looks fine, I guess. Yeah, but as a whole, while the 06 hubs aren't horrible, I feel as though they have a big flaw aside from the jungle design. The way you get to the levels is not very diegetic. You enter these portals and they just don't immerse me at all. For Emerald Coast in SA1, you walk down to the beach, enter it, and look, Emerald Coast. Here, you want to get to the desert, go over to this area that doesn't even look like it's close to a desert, and go into the portal that takes you to the level. That's lame. I think the point of a hub world is gone completely when it loses that immersion factor. I mean, why even have a hub if it doesn't even cleanly connect to the other levels? I don't know. I mean, I don't hate them here, but I don't really like them either. Now, next up, we've got Sonic Unleashed. You've got an accompanying hub world for each country, and they all do an amazing job at capturing the aesthetics of each location off visuals, yes, but also with the layouts. Each one does a nice job of feeling different from one another. Some are more smooth, some are a bit blockier. It all serves as a nice way of making each of them feel more distinct. There's not much I have to really say about each hub world individually, so I'm just gonna be covering them generally. The hubs on Unleashed almost feel like a toned-down adventure hub. They're way smaller and more compact for the most part, and to accommodate, Sonic has been slowed now going at a jog at the very most. This isn't a bad thing, though. And because each level is directly attached to an accompanying hub world, there's no real way of getting lost. So from a pacing standpoint, these hubs are actually quite well implemented into the game. They don't really interrupt the flow of the game in any way, so I think they're pretty alright. Whitespace from Sonic Generations is just about as basic as it can get when it comes to a hub world, but I really don't mind that at all, to be honest. Locked in a 2D plane this time, you simply run left to right to access each stage. It's very simple, but there is a little more to it. On top of each stage is architecture resembling each stage, which contains little bonus missions on top, and for each era, a rival will be waiting for you to challenge them at some point. Not really much to talk about because the Gen's hub world is painfully simple, but I honestly think it worked in its favor. It's great for pacing, it's easy to get to each level. I like it quite a bit, to be honest. Now, the Starfall Islands technically count as hub worlds, did you know that? They're hubs for the cyberspace, of course. Now, the funny thing about the Starfall Islands is that talking about them with any sort of depth at all would take 20 minutes, and I don't have it in me right now to be upset for that long. The Starfall Islands are technically hubs, but they're also just the game. You know how in Sonic games you walk into the stages to play the part of the game you like? I mean, you could do that here, but cyberspace isn't good and the open zone is the main part of the game. Okay, I can be negative real quick. Visually, they suck. I'm not opposed to Sonic tiptoeing into realism every now and then. Unleashed in Generations did it well. However, here, this is just basic stock Quixel mega scans, and it just looks horrible, and there's no attempt of stylization whatsoever. Oh, but Sonic makes it work because he contrasts the environment. Do you know how stupid that is? For one thing, I'd rather he just not contrast the environment much, because in this case, the environment looks like shit. Maybe just give us a nice-looking surreal environment. How about that? Even when Sonic has contrasted the environments before, aside from 06, because that game doesn't look very good, those environments still have stylization, something Frontier's open zones severely lack. Unleashed goes for a more realistic art style, yet still sticks to landing because it isn't purely realism. Oh, but anyways, if you want to hear me complain more, I made a whole video on why I don't like Frontier, so there you go. Next up is Superstars, and this one's funny. So I've been very adamant about how I love Superstars and believe it has some of the best gameplay in the entire franchise, and I still stand by that. I've also said it has plenty of flaws. This is one of them. In every aspect, this fails. It's annoying to get from stage to stage as there's stage-specific gimmicks in between certain levels that take longer for you to get to the next one, so it's just kind of inconvenient to traverse. Visually, it's just incoherent. It does a very poor job of immersing you or making you feel like this is a connected world. Sonic Generations had a very simple hub, yet it made sense because, well, we're in the void. It was able to almost haphazardly put these stages next to each other while still keeping it coherent in the context of the game's story. Superstars, on the other hand, just looks bad, and it's incoherent, and I don't like it. But now, finally, we have Shadow Generations. It's okay. So, it's the same general concept as Sonic Generations Whitespace, with the levels all scattered around the map. However, the big twist is that we're now in 3D. This hub is a smaller version of the open zone format seen in Frontiers, and I remember seeing people praise this, saying how excited they were for Frontiers 2 because of how much this had just improved on the open zone formula. Now, I do think this hub is more quality for the most part. However, I don't really think it improves on the formula much at all. Any platform platforming challenges and what have you still consists of the same basic rinse and repeat platforming seen in Frontiers with homing chains and whatnot. The only difference now is that because there aren't as many, they're able to have quality over quantity, and at the very least have some of these platforming challenges be at least a little more interesting. However, this doesn't do anything at all to actually evolve that formula. All of the problems that were in Frontiers are still here. Now, visually, while it's not winning any awards, I feel like this does a nice job at making me feel at least a bit immersed. While there's still Frontiers floating platform syndrome, a lot more challenges are more naturally ingrained into the world design. Because of the whole white space shtick, it once again gets away with having these stages be essentially O6 portals, which I don't particularly mind in this context. There's this underground area that's really cool to discover and traverse, I like it quite a lot, and once you reach Radical Highway, the Doom Zone can be activated, giving you a small little tower climb up to said stage, and it's pretty cool, I like it quite a lot. But from a level design standpoint, it's kinda but as a, neat little spectacle bit, it's pretty cool. While I certainly have a plethora of issues with it, I really do feel like this twist on whitespace was a job well done overall. It's also a lot more excusable given the scope of the project. Well, what's your favorite hub from the Sonic series? I'll be honest, there aren't any I particularly love. I love the aesthetics of most of them, but when I'm actually in them, there's not much gameplay to really keep me interested, which is fine for the most part. They are hubs, they are means of getting to the core gameplay for the most part. They aren't supposed to contain super interesting gameplay or whatever, so it's not like it's a huge deal. I think my favorite is probably Shadow Generations, and even then that's not a high bar, but it at the very least provides me with some decent enough gameplay. As for the hubs not centered on gameplay, I quite like the Gens hub for its simplicity. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe, and if you want to go the extra mile, be sure to join my Patreon, link in the description, for early access to videos. It is very cheap, you can afford it. But anyways, I'll see you next time. Peace.